This is the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Matt. In this podcast, we're going to discuss growing companies, automation and manufacturing,
and how we're building the lives and businesses we want to see in the world.
Well, I guess you may as well kick us off then. General feelings in the week, Michael?
Yeah. Still a little bit overwhelmed. We've had this SBA loan drag out forever, which is kind of squeezing us on cash. And we have a lot of money in receivables. So I've been doing a little bit of, small business owner bill chasing, which is always miserable. A little bit of just jumping onto projects where there's, a decent amount of AR once the project is actually completed. So trying to aggressively close out projects. I know my goal was to close out 2 turnkeys from last week, which we got one of the 2 closed out and one almost closed out.
Okay.
And then we've also been, because I've been messing with these turnkeys, I've been really diving into the CNC machinery and just fixing a lot of stuff like I did with the assembly department, which, it's spiraling out of control a little bit because there's all these things I want to fix.
You got to pick your battles.
Yeah.
I think we've said this on the podcast in the past too, and I like it. It's a quote that Steve Jobs said about their processes of like when they went through the growing the business and they became so fixated on becoming so efficient that they forgot about who they really were and they were focusing too much on the processes.
Yeah.
And I know both of us have kind of had that like, oh, we really want to get all these processes, but at the end of the day, we can't forget who the customers are and how we pay the bills.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's another thing that's stressing me out right now because I'm so overloaded. There's always little stuff that comes up. We had a customer with a dual contact BT30 spindle, right? Using our FlowLink system. And this exact configuration has never come up. And, we talked to Mari Tool and they told us it wouldn't cause an issue. And, lo and behold, it caused an issue. And, those things, there's a couple of those things that get elevated to me and that stresses me out. And, I'm not seeing or thinking about the 20 orders that went out that same week with no issues, right? That just worked where customers are happy. So that's, I guess I'm really taking the stress right now. And I feel like I'm going the right direction and I'm not, freaking out, but I'm a little bit exhausted. And I want to get some of these projects done. Reflecting, I really need to put more effort right now into getting properly staffed because I've been letting myself get too into the business and then letting that issue stay in a prolonged manner, a couple of holes in the business not getting filled.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? General feelings?
Yes, I guess I was trying to figure out a good way to sum it up because the week had one really good thing. We had sign off with the customer. So the proof of concept CAD sign off and testing with the 6-axis LR mate went really well. Only minor changes on the CAD from I gathered. So I don't think the meeting could have went much better, really as good as it could go. For the sales proposals, what we were talking about, my goal of getting 5 of them done or laid out, 3 are laid out, 2 are in WIP and should be done by end of week here. Really a main portion of that is delegation. Had a team member come in and really help with the initial outline of these, which without that, I wouldn't have gotten through it. But what that allowed me to do is then also get some of that time so I could get some other sales stuff. So I guess trying to
building that, we talked about building that structure in, or is that something you're looking at doing of actually allocating hours on the Gantt charts?
It is.
Yeah.
So it's allocated, and that actually might have been why I think it would be too soon on the trigger, but there's a couple things that just occurred because the proof of concept being done and then customer delay on something else that I was able to pull a different engineer in for more than what we had laid out. So he's been helping me for the last couple of days here in all reality, which has been really beneficial. But long story short, yes, our Gantt now shows mechanical engineering department 16 hours per week, and then electrical and software engineering department 16 hours per week. So we have 32 hours of engineering every week allocated to sales.
Good for you. You needed something a little more, more structure, a little more hours from your team.
Yeah, the 16 of kind of ad hoc that we were trying to get, because we had laid this out of the goals from the team. I realized we're kind of rolling straight into sales and marketing.
That's what happens every week.
I think for the feelings to kind of finish that up, I don't know thankful for the team of help or like the relief that the PLC signed off, and then we're actually rolling more into the sales support because we've had this just massive buildup of wave of leads and that are converting to needing quotes that I've never seen this. Like right now we have 11 that are just in quoting process. That might have been the number I shared last week when we were talking about it, and we've moved stuff through. So it's just been really cool to see that. But getting that support on the GAN, like you said, is really, really supporting the long-term vision of the company.
I know you were like cutting who you were like responding to down from your 4-star leads to your 5-star ones. Is that still kind of the case? You're only doing like the most likely to close deals?
That's actually really interesting because this morning I was able to carve like an hour and a half out to send emails to 4-stars as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was by having more engineering support this week, I was able to go after some of the other. There's still great leads too. It's just not like these people aren't screaming hot. And sometimes those leads end up being the kind of the gems that are hiding there because their personality just was that they didn't make their project seem urgent,
Right.
even though they're more than likely still going to buy this year.
Right. Yeah.
So
Any
Yeah.
other sales and marketing? I know the website's been there.
Yep.
Any advertising updates?
So something we're looking at, because our top of funnel on LinkedIn is starting to kick a few out. So we've started running our automation assessment LinkedIn campaign. That's giving us a few pretty decent leads here. And so we're starting to run a middle of funnel campaign. We're setting that up here over the next couple of weeks. So we'll be hopefully testing that soon.
My issue with LinkedIn was always like getting the targeting to work. So I'm kind of curious, like what you're doing differently
I
from me. Like, are
honest,
you targeting job titles, like
so we're
interest?
doing,
Yeah.
it's pretty much everything. We've got a unique equate. I guess not really unique, but it's narrowed down based on organizational size, job titles. You can also filter like universities out because that was a big challenge that we had where a lot of universities were coming to us because we're pitching an educational piece. Automation
Right.
assessment kind of is educational. But filtering a lot of that out. And I would say that that was a large portion of the last several months was just continuing to filter out. It's like, these leads are really close, but they're just not quite good. And in the last month here, we've kicked out a couple that are going to probably turn into some deal proposals.
Yeah, I would love to see what your filters are offline. Link.
Yeah, I'll have to dig into that because I usually have our agencies running those for us.
Yep.
So I have a call with them, we review them, and then they make the changes based on what I give them. So complete transparency, I'm not exactly positive.
Yeah. Just I've never seen good leads filter through LinkedIn, and I don't know. We only spent $3,000-$4,000 testing it,
Yeah.
but you know that's been enough on Google to kick back some leads.
Yeah,
So I want to hear what you've been doing, like at a
I'll
granular
share
level.
that. We can do that
And
offline.
yeah, okay.
And then really the site visit. So we had one site visit. I was down in Chicago this week. That was really good lead. That one came through. They were looking at our automation assessment. They have really straightforward projects. So it was pretty easy. Just do a walkthrough and then we'll just bid their projects. But they have 4 active projects that we're going to have to put proposals together for. So that's pretty cool to see.
You've been on site a lot lately, right?
I've been trying to average 1 a week. So
Okay,
I'm booking 1 a week. I'm booked now, I believe, 5 weeks out. And that's been a rolling last week I was 5 weeks out. The week before that I was 5 weeks out. At least it's not getting higher. I was a little nervous when I started booking that 5th week out.
Yeah.
So
just broadly speaking, like who's the I know I keep going back to the LinkedIn thing, but what is the normal job title that you like try to advertise to or gets you excited from a lead? You know, is it a production engineer? Is it the president of the company? Like, what's the typical
it depends
first
on
point of contact?
Depends on organizational size.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So
do you have like broad strokes guidance?
Say that again?
Like broad strokes, company this size, we go after this person, this size, that person.
I'd share that offline.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple things where we've probably on LinkedIn we probably spend 10,000 on ads just narrowing down on these, and I'm seeing what's working, and I know who we've talked to in the past. So yeah, I'd rather keep that a little bit of a trade secret
for sure.
So
yeah, because we've done like a similar, like we've spent a lot of money with Google and Meta figuring that out. I think you've started to do that with LinkedIn. It'd be interesting to see if we can cross those paths.
And I think I think some of it's the assets too. Like if we go back in develops
Yeah.
time, we started investing so much in educational content over the last 3 years here, really, and it's been going for 5 years. And so now some of that content's just really starting to play on itself too. Like our SEO is kicking off decent amount of leads through that educational content. The LinkedIn ads are doing it. It's just the LinkedIn ads are trying to accelerate what we did in the SEO.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and it's that same problem that I talked about last or a couple weeks back with how do you tell if it's a good salesman or a good product? And the same with marketing. Like if you don't have good ad creative on top of good targeting on top of a good product, it's gonna fall apart, right?
I still go back to the line. I know 50% of my marketing's working. I just don't know which
Yeah.
50%. But I think you're right. It all just, they're all playing on each other. One weak link breaks the whole system.
Yep. Cool.
So, what
Well,
about yourself?
for me, some weird stuff. So we haven't been pushing marketing very hard, as we've been short staffed, as I've been trying to like really refine the intro load, as I've been jumping back into projects and kind of working, in the business, which, has actually been great for me, like improving a lot of efficiencies and getting, product designs fixed and just, putting, I think, really critical directives in place that I would have missed otherwise. But, as I've been doing that, we haven't done much marketing. The good thing is that we've been on top of, Instagram, Facebook posts, LinkedIn posts. Those are all really regular and that's been systemized. But, things like SEO, website improvements, we have, this initiative that keeps getting put on the back burner to take new pictures and brand the specific, version number of all of our products. Because, we've gone through like 4 to 6 revs of everything. So, I want it to be the Gim Gripper 4 so we can delineate from, generation to generation. We've done no articles, we've done, no real SEO. We've been letting the ads just kind of play.
Have you
And
thought about just hiring an agency to come in
ugh,
and shoot your photos?
the problem is we update things too much. And
Well, you've identified the problem.
yeah, I know, but like the thing is, so I mentioned like this customer with this dual contact BT30, and I could just give them their money back, but the thing is like I would rather just fix the problem, even eat the pain, take a loss this time, and then have that done on a going forward basis.
But you
And I
never
think,
sold one of these before, you said, right?
well, we've sold like 100 of the BT30 RotoFlow links on normal BT30, but the dual contact is a very slightly different holder, which goes into the machine, but there's enough slop that it doesn't tool change correctly, apparently. So
Interesting.
we run into things like that, and I like being able to stay nimble, take the photos, and just put it up as a Shopify listing, and just move on and see what.
Do you need to do photos?
The thing is like our one of our primary products is like the grip slip grip module, right? And that is on Rev 5, but we have like Rev 3.5
So
as the photo.
I think what I'm going to challenge you on that is set up an environment and just render them in Fusion or get Keyshot and
Oh,
render
it's
them
way
there.
faster just to take pictures. Yeah, because we used to try the rendering, and it's really hard to get it to look right.
But I don't think it needs to look perfect because I know
Yeah.
that's something that always ate me alive is wanting our renders of products. And you'll see it on our new product releases. It's just like we had 35 SKUs coming through. We could have tried getting pictures. Some of these products, we haven't even made yet. It's just a variation of something that we do very regularly.
Mhm.
So it's like we just decided to go with renderings on it. And I think the market's getting used to seeing. I don't,
I
and it,
agree.
and the rendering's low quality. It's like a SolidWorks
Sure.
screenshot,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, where I am on that is we used to do the rendering thing, and we try, and this may be my standards being just too high, but it's not like a picture of a SolidWorks or Fusion model. We would pay rendering people $75 a render. Where I ended up was like I'm not going to sell a product or list it unless I have a physical version that's been tested, right? So the workflow that we developed is okay. We just put it in the Lightbox. We take a picture on the iPhone. We upload it to this app called Remini. We hit the button, and it almost like makes it look like a render. It's some AI crap that makes it look like a weirdly perfect photo where you like ask, is that real? Is that a render? It's kind of this, uncanny valley in between. We compress that and we upload it. So we have a really good workflow. I'm just whining because I need to take the 2
That's
hours
fine.
out of one of my days and just do it, right?
Well, I mean, that's not something you just delegate then. If you have all these, they just need pictures snapped.
I can, and then we get back to the short staffed issue, right? And And that's another thing. It's like, do I want to build an SOP on this thing that gets done for, 5 hours every 6 months, or do I just want to do it? Right. And that's kind of its own question.
Do you just need like an office assistant?
Probably. But
Like in-house office, like front of office that could handle some of your top of funnel sales, potentially some of your, I'm assuming you still have shipping demand where you could
mhm.
potentially have that office person handling that, but you don't need technical assembly skills.
Yeah, I mean, the first priority is like, I just need to get like, I went through that personnel issue where I thought we had a good assembly or great assembly guy,
Yeah.
and then it ended up not working out. By the time that everything had happened, we kind of had aged out the job application. So we put a new application up, and now I need to go through the rankings and actually get interviews on the books. So like that's one thing I think that just has to happen. And that's probably my accountability task for this week is like I need to start interviewing people for that position. Um, I don't know about you, but as an entrepreneur, I've been in a number of cash squeezes and difficult situations. Be it AR, a customer going bankrupt, whatever. And I do find myself, especially like right now, I think being too cheap, and doing things that are probably short-sighted. That because cash is tight, I'm not hiring a person. When hiring that person might have an immediate positive effect on the top line that's greater than the cost of actually paying them.
Yeah. That's a very real pain as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, being too conservative can hurt you, and I think I'm suffering from that, and I'm trying to push myself, which is, I can start with the assembly person right now. Um, but I'll keep it in sales and marketing for one more second.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah.
One thing I found really weird. I have not been doing any SEO stuff. We've had a couple SEO, agencies, freelancers, whatever. We ended up just stopping. Haven't done anything for 2-3 months, and I go and I log into SEMrush, and our authority score had gone from a 10 to an 18. And I just looked at that and I'm like, what the hell just happened? Right? Like, and I don't know if it's just time in the market or what exactly happened, but that's nice.
A lot of that, like when we've done big pushes or improvements on our website, it typically took 90 days before we'd see an authority score change, even though we knew how much effort just got launched on.
Right.
So that just might be a time on site effect.
Yep. I
That's
guess what was
cool.
jarring
That's
about it is
awesome.
like, yeah, it's great. What was jarring is that like it's been one of those things I feel like I've been neglecting. We haven't been pushing new articles.
Are you
We need to
getting
make,
new?
uh-huh.
Did you get some new links somewhere else though? That would be something also
Yeah,
to look
yeah.
at. Did you get some backlinks because you created this content, now people used it? That's like the best way to get up the charts.
Well, yeah, and there's other things too. As we like started doing distribution for like Fifth Axis and Orange, then we get listed as a distributor on their website, and then obviously they have a much higher authority score than us. So that stuff has let us climb the ranks, and I think it's just taken a long time for that to actually come to fruition.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense though. I
But
think it could be some of those affiliations.
yeah, I got to look into LinkedIn ads because yeah, that's the other thing. I know our ad creative is getting stale, and I'm looking at all this, and I guess the more I'm hearing myself talk, it's like it kind of all links back to that short staff issue. Like I have to fix that hole to have enough breathing room to go and start optimizing on marketing, right?
Yeah, it's always the chicken and the eggs or the which fire are we gonna fight right now?
Yeah.
Pick your
The
battles.
That's why it's sometimes nice just to hear hear yourself think out loud and get challenged.
Yeah, that's the goal of this.
Cool. Do you have any marketing sales stuff you want to talk about?
That's pretty much it. It's been cranking through proposals, trying to be on the road once a week. Next week, I got my plans all laid out. Should be a pretty exciting one. That'll actually be a second site visit where we'll be pitching a machine with some different levels of management. So that'll be fun. Otherwise, nothing too crazy. I've been trying to be more execution on sales, less on marketing as well, because top of funnel seems to be working pretty good.
Cool.
Engineering and R&D.
Oh, I have more than I probably should.
I have almost nothing for this one, so you
Yep.
can fire away.
Okay. So obviously we've been working on the intro load. I guess I'll pull back a second. As we have dealt with some of the tariff stuff, all of our domestic suppliers, in addition, obviously, to our international suppliers, have all gotten drastically more expensive, drastically longer lead time, and that really gave me a push to bring stuff back in house. And the intro load, was a great opportunity to do that because now we have a pallet changing system that just runs 9 parts. And, we used to use gripper automation to run our own components. And it was nice, but we had to do a 2, 3, 4 hour setup, right, to run a part quantity that we really don't want to run trying to be like a lean business, keeping minimal dollars in inventory. And man, as the intro load just totally changed my philosophy on part manufacturing. Being able to run, 9 parts at a time really makes it incredibly feasible and cost effective on standardized fixturing too, to just hit go. And that has been awesome. I have been spending more time than I should going and running parts and proving out production programs when we still have back inventory and an existing supply chain. I should have been doing this more gradually. That's one thing that I definitely have been reflecting on is it shouldn't have necessarily been me. We also have been looking for a while at like a CNC apps person. It's kind of a weird spot because like we need CNC machining, but only a little bit. It's really more applications engineering. And we have like probably 25, 30 hours a week for that person, but it's a very high paid position. So at least right now what we're trying is Priscilla's stepping into it. She's been learning CAM and progressing at a very impressive rate. I'm very surprised to see just how fast she's been.
Nice.
She just skipped 3-axis and went straight to 5-axis machining.
I think my one question on that would be, is I know you've talked about not wanting to work day to day together.
Yeah.
I know that's a hard line that Amanda and I have in the sand. Like we're just like, we've never worked together. We've said we're going to keep the two separate. I think that might actually be the challenge I think you should reflect on, because I think you've shared some good things that you just might want to reflect on there.
Yeah, and that's definitely my hesitation too, right? Is we've tried this before in a different capacity, and I just kind of want to see how it can work. We have consultants who do these turnkeys for us. I want to keep providing the turnkeys through the consultants and just try to use this to be able to scale the number we can process, because I can only run 3 or 4 of these a month through our 2 consultants, which is not enough. And yeah, that's definitely a question, because we have tried working together before. And if you're listening, Priscilla's my wife for context. And it didn't work out the first time. I think our relationship has changed and matured a lot. But yeah, it's definitely going to be, even if it works, a different dynamic than I have with the rest of my staff. So we shall see. It's all kind of preliminary there. But to that end, I'm just talking about delegation. I should have let her, go and implement these production files and test them out one by one, as opposed to just me being impatient to get our own parts back produced under our roof. So there's that. We've been proving out parts. It's been a really good opportunity to tweak the intraload, just running it and seeing what could be better. I realized rather than typing in, change a pallet, G65, P7500, AX, where X is your pallet number, I can just assign that to a custom M code and make it a lot cleaner. There are little things like that I think our products are improving because of, me actually being, going to the Gemba, seeing where our product could be better. Obviously implementing them is a bit of a challenge. And the biggest thing is we're starting the R&D. So first off, I'll say we're killing the extra load yet again. I really reflected on, the extra load, which is this big 24 pallet changer that's expandable to like 74 positions. It's basically like a Roa or a Trinity or a Halter robot, right? And just talking to a lot of people and trying to, in the industry, sales guys, this, that, and the other thing, I kind of realized there's a general downward price trend on these automation cells that makes me not want to compete on that axis. Whereas the intraload, we have the unique advantage that if you have no space, you have spindle next to spindle, we're literally the only option. And I like selling into markets where we're the only choice. And kind of in tandem with that, part of my motivation to at least pause, if not totally kill that project, is that I figured out a way to totally implement an intraload on a 3-axis machine, which has been my biggest hesitation with the intraload, is that the market is so small because it's capped by, every machine brand and model that you're able to put it on. So that's kind of been, one of these things that's been culminating in my head. But again, it's hard to do R&D when you're trying to catch up on projects, trying to chase. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I need to do.
I mean, that's a question though on market saturation. I mean, if you focus on just trying to saturate with the current products you have rather than trying to make new products, you'll actually be able to create more new products in the future faster. Like it's,
Yes and no. Um, so like,
this
uh,
might be a good debate.
yeah, I mean, over time we've been moving more up market, right? And that's just because it's easier. And obviously you are significantly more up market selling $250,000 to $1 million systems than we are. But I'm seeing our turnkeys go the way of, we're doing fewer $25,000 systems and more $45,000 systems. And I've also realized like the intraload has the big advantage being pallet tending that there's no training, there's nothing to learn. People understand how a pallet tending system works, right? So I've definitely realized that while the grippers and everything are a nice like core business, um, I think long term the intraload and pallet changing is a better core business because it's something that people understand and you don't have to go through such hell to educate the market to make them understand why it's a good value proposition.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that, but you already have an interload, correct?
Yeah, we have a 5-axis intraload that's compatible with exactly 4 machines, right? And
How
that
many
four
machines is
machines,
that on?
right now we've sold like 4 of them.
So have you saturated that market?
Well, of course not. Yeah, okay, that's a
Should you
good
be
point.
making new products?
Yeah, I guess that's very fair. And the other thing that, other than newsletters, we haven't done any paid advertising on Intraload, which is probably a thing to fix before we go build a 3-axis one, right? Fair criticism.
This might be another challenge for you. I
Yeah,
think you need to deploy more because just look at how much you're learning internally, Michael,
yeah,
on deploying it on your own machine, and maybe that's machine number 4 or 5. I think you need to try and get as many of those in the market in the next 12 months and then worry about going after the 3-axis because the 3-axis people are going to be more critical. The cost prices are going to be driven down because their machines cost less. So the 5X, I think you're in a solid market. You created it for machines where the customers will probably accept some hiccups because we know if they have one of those, they probably had some pains anyways with those
yeah,
machines. So I think you picked the right machines. I just think you need to sell more of them before you
yeah,
make more new products that are parallel, if you will.
yeah. I agree with you on we need to sell more before we do the R&D. I don't think I agree on the cost sensitivity axis. The thing about pallet changers is like it's kind of a set cost number, right? Like regardless of if you're buying a commercially available system, it's gonna be like 125 just for the base system, regardless of whether it's going on 3 or 5 axis.
I see. Well, what I'm saying is the 5 axis are less price sensitive because their machines
Right.
cost
Yeah.
more, is what I
Yeah.
was meaning by that. But I get what you're saying that, yeah, whether it's on a 5 axis or 3, it's going to be roughly the same price.
Yeah. And it's also a weird spot because like we're a value oriented solution and like kind of the only one, right? There's not another $30,000 pallet loading system that's fully implemented, right? And so I think there's a solid market there for the 3-axis stuff, but feedback taken, and you're definitely correct that I need to put the effort into advertising beyond a couple newsletters and a web page before I go and say we're going to put all this effort into building an entirely new product line. Uh, that's completely untested. Yeah, valid criticism. I'm with you.
I'm going to hold you accountable to that one next week. That's the one
Yeah,
I'm holding to here so far.
yeah, that's
I don't know
fair.
what the action item is, but I think that because that's going to be your all right. You create that. You're currently constrained on your wanting to hire an interview, and if you create more sales, you're going to be able to justify that to yourself in the future ARs.
Yep. I think the other thing that I need to be more honest about too is that I need to be less sensitive to like what I perceive as an opportunity to like sell 1 or 2 of something, right? And use that to fund the R&D. Like I think we're just past that scale, and I shouldn't be doing that anymore. Because I did that with extra load, and ultimately that sale fell through, which is whatever. Those things happen. Um, but I shouldn't have let that drive a business decision. Just sell 1 unit, even if it's 100 grand or whatever. I need to focus on what's right for the business long term, regardless.
It's a standard entrepreneur small business thing. I mean, there's that like weird transition where you go from diving for dollars to knowing what's going to create the value for growing your business. And I would say that's where like the Merlin advisors and the small business development center, the people that gave me a lot of the same things I'm saying here, they really forced me to focus on what was going to grow the business rather than get concerned about like, that's revenue. We could get that. And it's like,
Right.
and we need revenue. And it's like, no, you need the right revenue
Yeah.
is kind of the things I would say.
Yeah. And I think I've been so good about not taking job shop work, about, not taking contract manufacturing work, taking, really only taking engineering consulting work that's associated with the two existing contracts that like we need to finish. Um, but I haven't been good at, these bespoke automation projects that I should be saying no to for, one-time value. Or, even something like the extra load pallet changer, saying no there because it's not the right thing for the business to develop long term, at least right now.
Yeah. I mean, and if they're in the pipeline like they are, I think it's also ordering the priorities so your team knows that if a customer is going to be let down, who that customer has to be.
Yeah, for sure.
So that might be just a good message to make sure that everybody knows on your team, because that's definitely helped us, where it's like some customers can always seem like they have some extreme urgency, but we know there's not the urgency to it, or maybe they're not aligning with some of the future. It's making sure the team knows that like, all right, these are very critical partnerships that we're building with these handful of clients. They are top priority. They can't be let down.
And to some degree we have that, but I think it's, we're less dependent on any one client just because the value of every project is smaller.
Yeah,
Our projects really cap out at like $60,000, $70,000.
yeah, our clients are very different in that. We're really, as we've grown, it's been how to create strategic relationships that are less focused on, who's the lowest bid in the pool, if you will. It's how can develop add the most value to them or reduce the amount of pain on automation for them by just doing everything for them.
Yep.
And those have been the clients that it's like, we just have trigger events. We finish project one. We're going to start project two as long as this machine's been performing for 60 days. And it's like, I love those kind of contracts.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those are the ones. Well, do you have
So,
any engineering R&D?
proof of concept signed off. That's really good relief for the team. A lot of people are out in engineering this week. So I don't know if it's the Father's Day weekend, but
Yep.
it's like an odd number of vacations where it's like basically it's a ghost town around here today and tomorrow. So really the team executed on what we needed to for projects, a little bit of sales here, obviously. And really there's nothing for company-wide updates and improvements to kind of roll into that next one as well. I have nothing to report there. So this might be a light podcast, which I guess is fine for the listeners sometimes.
Yeah, I mean it's nice too for me because I've been working myself into the ground, and
Yeah.
and I couldn't sleep this morning, and so what do you do as the business owner who's overwhelmed? You go into work at 6:30, which as someone who's been overworking themselves is probably not the best strategy. But I guess I'll roll into company-wide updates and improvements. I've just been rolling through the CNC section. We've been honestly, like, for the extra load being like a fourth rev product that's on its first generation, and we have an older rev than is deployed. Man, I'm just like so shocked that it's like so good and reliable. It's like we've never had a misload, we've never had a failure, like, and I guess I shouldn't be because like it's based on the kinematics of the machine, but there've been a lot of products where I'm like, it's good enough, like maybe the very early grippers or something. And yeah, the thing about the intro load is just like me actually running it, I'm just blown away by how solid it is.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it's great. And then I'm seeing little improvements that we can make. But I guess the biggest thing is like in running the intro load and running these part numbers, I've been kind of tearing up the CNC department, getting to standardized tooling. I'm starting to explore toolpath, which is the kind of fusion CNC cam automation.
Mhm.
Trying to bring back into the fold, obviously having Priscilla start to work on turnkeys and parts and getting that at least started and see where it goes. And also bringing into the fold a couple of like old cam consultants that we used to use to generate cam more effectively.
Makes sense.
So mostly CNC improvements. There's still a lot of improvements that I want to make in other places. Like I think I talked like 3 or 4 weeks back about like wanting to automate our quoting, to use AI in more profound ways. But I guess with all the AI stuff, I'm taking kind of the lowest hanging fruit, which at one point was email, and I think the next is cam automation for us, and take it step by step right now.
Makes sense. Yeah. Ours has been email and a lot in the sales proposals. They definitely help me out a lot there. I've built out some agents that I use our old or existing proposals that are kind of as templates and then can cruise through them. And that also helps for like follow-ups from site visits.
Yeah. But I mean, that's all I got. I mean, I'm like putting the tool holders closer to the tool setup
Yeah.
area. I'm like rearranging little stuff, but and obviously it's nice to go for lean and make parts exactly where they're used to make parts 9 at a time, because our pallet changer is 9 9 vices on it. But rather than carrying inventory, I'm honestly embarrassed how much money I have tied up in inventory. It's more than cash that we have on hand. Which is its own challenge as a small business, and I'm really wanting to push towards that lean direction of holding a minimum quantity and having something standardized where we hit the button and more or less make the part on demand.
Yeah. You definitely have a different challenge there because like our inventory is a Fastenal cabinet
Yeah. Yeah.
and
But
like
that's
a pile of aluminum.
yeah. We have pallet racks full of aluminum and cascading thicknesses and the all kinds of tooling and the
Yeah, it stacks up.
oh yeah, yeah.
So,
And
oh,
that's
go
just
ahead.
like that's raw materials, and that's just for the stuff that we are still making in house, right? And I was more talking about like the inventory from OSP vendors. That's what's really out of control right now.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think for a challenge for you next week, no new product development, Michael. I think you need to focus on selling. And I think that
Yeah.
that's going to be a challenge that I want to hold you accountable to like for months, which you probably don't want to hear the months part of that,
Mm-hmm.
but I could almost say, don't even think about R&D for the next quarter.
Yep.
And then let's revisit it then. And we might say to the end of the year.
Yep.
That's
I'll agree with you on all but existing projects that like are already sold that need to be closed out, right?
yeah, I'm
Um,
not going to debate that. You need
yeah.
to make those customers happy. I'm not saying
Yeah.
just go kill customers.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right, and things like this dual contact PT30. Like if I'm being honest, what was the right thing to do? Maybe just to refund the customer and not
Have you
bend
started
over
that project?
backwards. I agree to do it, so I'm gonna do it. Like that's the thing, and that there is this whole tendency I have that, and we've talked about this back and forth a lot. Of we both have the tendency to like bend over backwards to fix customer issues.
Yeah.
Even when it's maybe not our fault, or maybe the right thing to do is just refund the money and move on.
Yeah, I have a kind of an interesting motto that it's like if I say I'm going to do it, you can consider it done.
Yeah.
And so it's like I just don't ever want to break that or go back on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to learn to just not say that I'm going to do it, and rather than saying I'm going to do it and then
Regret it.
regretting it, spending way too many hours, and that's been a common theme that I've been getting better at, but it's it's a journey to get where you want to go. What about you for accountability? I think the first thing for me is honestly to set up interviews and take hiring this position seriously. Like if I'm going to choose one thing, it's going to be that. But I agree. Like next week, check in with me and make sure I'm not like. I think I'll let myself do a mock-up, so I just don't forget, what the concept is. But yeah, I shouldn't be spending multiple days, in like production prototypes or anything. But what about you for your accountability item for next week?
I am trying to figure that out because I actually just looked at my calendar. I have two road trips planned, which is technically 3 site visits next week.
Yeah, not
um,
much you're able to do there.
yeah, pretty much it's going to be execute on what needs to get done. I think it's probably going to be through the end of the week here saying no to anything else that needs to go on my calendar, but that's not much of an accountability. I don't know what to
I think
say.
that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like,
think that's like, just Matt not to overwhelm himself with, any more tasks. Because,
so
yeah, I mean, like, 3 site visits in a week, you can't expect to be able to do much more.
no, it's going to take me, I mean, average site visit is typically 2 to 4 hours offsite of just notes and emails and documentation so that I can put that stuff into our sales pipeline.
Yeah.
So, I mean, right there, that's somewhere between 6 and 12 hours worth of work.
Yeah. I mean, do the site visits and do the groundwork and then call it a day. And that's,
All right. Well,
You
Okay.
want to wrap up there?
I'm good with a short one this week.
Cool.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. I know Michael's been saying this last couple weeks, so I'll reiterate it this time.
Yep. Share it with a friend. Go listen to all of them.
Yeah, moms count.
All right.
We've got a lot of
wrap
mom
up there.
followers. It's funny.
Happy Father's Day. I know this comes out 2 weeks later, but
Yeah,
I'll throw it in there
that's
anyway.
true. Good call.
Thank you so much for listening to Matt and I's conversation this week on the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend or give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week to continue sharing our respective journeys in life, business, and industrial automation. Thanks so much.